My family took the $3,200 vacation I had meticulously planned without me, and then my brother swiped my credit card information for a jet ski rental. When I confronted them, they shrugged it off, saying, "You would have paid for it anyway." I reported the fraud, and the police uncovered texts where he referred to me as a fool. I pulled up to the lakeside cabin just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the gravel driveway. My old truck came to a halt, the tires crunching beneath me, and I sat there for a moment, hands still gripping the steering wheel, my chest tight with a mix of hope and dread. For 6 months, I had planned this, our first real family vacation in years. A week at Cedar Lake Retreat, a charming cabin with a wraparound porch and a dock I had envisioned us all laughing on. I had worked double shifts at the warehouse, skipped meals, and poured every extra dollar into the $3,200 deposit. The grill I had shipped ahead sat unopened by the steps, its box still sealed. There was no smoke, no sizzle, no voices spilling out of the open windows, just an unsettling silence that felt wrong. I stepped out, my boots scuffing the dirt, and checked my phone. The text glowed back at me, Sunday, 6 p.m., Cedar Lake Retreat. See you there. I had sent it to the family group chat 3 weeks ago, and my brother, Mark, had replied, "Can't wait, sis." I had triple-checked it last night, my heart racing with excitement. Now, at 6:03 p.m., the place was a ghost town, no cars, no lights, just the wind rustling through the pines. My throat tightened as I dialed Mark. The phone rang loudly in the stillness, and he picked up on the second buzz, his voice too bright, as if he had rehearsed it. "Oh, hey. We did it last week. Thought you couldn't make it. We've got some pictures for you, though." Pictures. My stomach lurched, a cold fist twisting inside me. I had paid for this, every plank of that dock, every bed they had slept in, and they had gone without me last week. I thought we were all coming together, I croaked, but he just laughed, light and carefree. "Yeah, it was a blast. Chill, we'll catch you up." I hung up, staring at the dark windows, my breath fogging in the October air. They hadn't forgotten, they had chosen this, and I was left holding nothing but an empty house. I sank onto the cold porch steps of the cabin, the rough wood biting through my jeans, and let the silence settle over me like a shroud. My hands rested on my knees, heavy and useless, as the night crept in, stars pricking the sky one by one. I didn't cry, I couldn't. But my mind churned, dragging me back through years I tried to bury. Mark's face flickered there first, all crooked grin and easy charm, the brother I had spent my life supporting. When we were kids, he would swipe candy from the corner store, get caught, and I would be the one slipping the clerk a crumpled $5 from my allowance. "He's fragile, you're strong. Help him," my mom's voice echoed in my ear. I did, always. By high school, it wasn't candy anymore, it was bail money. He had racked up $900 in gambling debts by 17, grinning at me over a bruised cheek when I handed over my savings from working at the grocery store. "You're the best, sis," he had said, as if that made it okay. I nodded, proud to be the rock, even when it left me feeling hollow. The wind picked up, whistling through the pine branches, and I rubbed my hands together, the chill seeping into my bones. I thought about starting a fire in the cabin, spending the night anyway, I had paid for it after all. But the emptiness of the place pressed down on me, the absence of my family, their laughter, their voices felt like a physical weight. Instead, I stood up, my knees creaking, and walked to the edge of the property where the land sloped down to meet the lake. The water was black in the darkness, reflecting pinpricks of stars. Somewhere in the distance, a loon called, its cry haunting and lonely. I remembered how excited I had been when I found this place online. The photo showed families barbecuing on the deck, kids jumping off the dock into the clear water. I had imagined us there, healing old wounds, making new memories. I thought this vacation could bridge the gaps that had grown between us over the years, but they couldn't even wait for me. The lake house faded into the distance that night, its empty silhouette shrinking in my rearview mirror, swallowed by the towering pines. The highway stretched ahead, a gray ribbon under a moonless sky, and I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles ached. Rage simmered low in my gut, not loud, not yet, but steady, like a cold that wouldn't go away. The headlights of passing cars illuminated my face in brief flashes, and I wondered what those drivers saw. Just another tired face on a Sunday night heading home from somewhere, or could they see the storm brewing behind my eyes? My phone buzzed on the passenger seat, Jane's name lighting up the screen. I let it ring out, then swiped to her text, "Bro, chill. We'll send you some fish we caught. Epic week. Fish." Like I was a stray they'd toss a bone to. I didn't answer, the words looped in my head, epic week, and I pictured them, Jane reeling in a base, Mom snapping photos, Dad cracking a beer I had paid for, all while I'd been stacking boxes, counting days, dreaming of a dock I'd never stand on. The radio played some pop song about family and home, the kind of saccharine nonsense that usually made me think of holiday cards and warm kitchens. Tonight, it made me sick. I switched it off, preferring the hum of tires on asphalt and the occasional rush of a passing truck. At a red light, I glanced at the dashboard where a small wooden fish hung from my rearview mirror, a gift from Grandpa when I was 10, right after he taught me to cast a line. Patient men catch the best fish, he had told me, his hands calloused but gentle as they guided mine. He was the only one who really saw me before he died when I was 14. I wondered what he'd think of me now, still patiently waiting for scraps of affection from people who didn't value me. The light turned green, and I pressed on, the miles ticking away as I wrestled with truths I'd spent years avoiding. Had it always been this bad? Had there ever been a time when they appreciated me, or had I just imagined it, constructed a family mythology that never existed? Memory is tricky that way, polishing rough edges and filling gaps with hope. Back at my apartment, I dropped my keys on the counter and sank into the couch, the springs creaking beneath me. The quiet was suffocating, but I couldn't sleep, not with that heat building inside. I grabbed my laptop, more out of habit than intent, and opened my bank app to check my balance. That's when I saw it, a $1,200 charge posted yesterday from Cedar Lake Boat Rentals. My breath caught. I hadn't rented a damn thing, I'd been at work when that transaction hit. The date matched their trip, though, last week, when they'd been living it up without me. My cursor hovered over the details, and there it was, authorized by a card in my name, the one Jane knew the number to from that glitch last year. She hadn't just excluded me, she'd stolen from me again, and this time it wasn't a mistake. I slammed the laptop shut, my pulse hammering in my ears. I saw red, her smug grin, her careless shrug, the way she'd played me for years while I ate the cost. I grabbed my phone and called Mom, my voice tight as wire. "Where's Jane?" She paused, then sighed, that familiar tone she used to smooth things over. "Oh honey, she's at home." "What's wrong?" I didn't mince words. "She used my card for a boat rental $1,200 last week." Another pause, longer this time. "She didn't mean it, you know how she gets. She just wanted to make it special for us." "Special?" The word landed like a slap. "For who?" "Not me. I wasn't there." She started again, but I cut her off. She thought I'd pay for it anyway, like always. I hung up before she could spin it further, my hand trembling as I set the phone down. I paced the room, the cheap carpet scuffing under my boots. It wasn't just the money, the $1,200 was half my rent, a hit I'd feel for months. It was the intent. She'd planned it, typed my numbers into that machine, knowing I'd be none the wiser, laughing with them on a boat I'd never ride, and Mom defending her like it was nothing, like I was the one overreacting. The walls of my apartment seemed to close in, the familiar confines suddenly claustrophobic. I grabbed my jacket and went out, not sure where I was going, just needing air, space, perspective. The night was cool, autumn clearly asserting itself. For gas when I drove 3 hours to help Dad fix their roof last summer, I found the confirmation email for the flowers I sent Mom after her minor surgery, followed immediately by her text thanking me, which was quickly followed by a request for money for Jane's car repair. It was all there, the evidence of a relationship built on taking, not mutual support. The facts were clear, laid out in black and white, impossible to rationalize away. Around noon, my phone rang, Mom again. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was predictable, "Call me back, honey. We need to talk about this boat thing. Jane feels terrible." I doubted that very much. By evening, I had my ammunition, a thick folder of papers that told the story of my exploitation. I didn't feel satisfaction, only a hollow certainty that this had to end. I pulled into Mom and Dad's driveway that evening, the engine ticking as it cooled, the thick folder tucked under my arm. The house glowed warm through the windows, a lie of a home I'd never really belonged to. I hadn't slept, spending the night printing bank statements, receipts, every trace of what I'd given them. My boots hit the porch with purpose, and I didn't knock, I just walked in. They were in the living room, Jane sprawled on the couch, scrolling her phone, Mom fussing with a tray of cookies, Dad hunched in his armchair, a baseball game flickering on TV. They looked up, startled, and I didn't wait for their hellos. I dropped the folder on the coffee table with a thud. "This," I said, my voice flat, "is what I paid for you." Jane smirked, not even sitting up. "What's this? Your diary?" I ignored her, flipping the folder open, pages fanned out. $3,200 for the lake house. $1,200 for the boat rental. $900 for her old gambling debt. $1,200 for Mom's furnace, the lake house you enjoyed without me, I said, pointing. The boat you rented on my card. Years of help you never paid back. I'm done. Mom's hands froze mid-fuss, her mouth parting. Honey, we're family. Why make it ugly? Jane snorted. You're so dramatic, man. It's not like we held a gun to your head. I locked eyes with her. No, you just took what I gave and laughed when I wasn't looking. Dad muted the TV, frowning. What's this about a boat? I slid the screenshot across the table. $1,200, Cedar Lake Boat Rentals, authorized last week. Jane used my card again while you were all out there fishing. Jane's smirk faltered just for a second, then she shrugged. It was for the family. You'd have done it anyway. I leaned in, voice low. I reported it as fraud this morning. Cops are digging into it. The room went still. Jane's phone slipped to the cushion, Mom's tray clattered to the floor, and Dad stood, face reddening. You turn on your own sister over this? She turned on me first. I shot back. Stole from me, planned it, then left me out of a trip I paid for. You all did. Mom stepped forward, hands wringing. We didn't mean to hurt you. Jane said, you were busy, that's all. I almost laughed, dry and bitter. Busy? I was working overtime for that cabin. You knew that. Jane rolled her eyes. Get over it, bro. It's not a big deal. That's when I pulled the second punch. It's a big deal when it's theft. The bank's got your name on it now. You're not sliding out of this one. The air shifted, heavy with their panic. Mom's voice cracked. You can't do this. We'll fix it. I shook my head. You don't get it. I'm not here to negotiate. I'm here to end it. Dad pointed a finger at me. You're tearing us apart over money. I met his glare. No, you tore us apart when you let her use me like a damn ATM and called it family. Silence stretched taut and electric until Aunt Lisa spoke from the corner. She'd been there the whole time, sipping tea unnoticed until now. I saw it, she said softly. Jane planned the boat thing. She said you'd never noticed the charge. Bragged about it at the lake. Her words hit like a jolt. Jane's head snapped toward her. What the hell, Lisa? She didn't flinch. It's true. They joked, you just pay it off. We're both smiling. Had that been real, or had I already been the mark back then, just unaware of the role I'd been assigned? I couldn't remember anymore. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 7:32, a local number I didn't recognize. I picked up, still groggy from a night of fractured sleep. This is Officer Daniels, a calm voice said. We're following up on your fraud report, $1,200 from Cedar Lake Boat Rentals. We've got texts from your sister to a friend, use his card, he's a sucker. We're heading to your parents' place today for statements. I sat up, the weight of it sinking in. Do I need to be there? I asked. No, sir, he replied. You've given us enough. We'll handle it. I thanked him and hung up. The silence in my apartment felt different, less oppressive, more like a shield. They'd face the mess they'd made, and for once, I wouldn't be the one cleaning it up. I was pouring coffee when another blow landed. My email pinged with a notification from a pawnshop app I'd linked to my old guitar, a beat-up acoustic Grandpa had left me. I'd lost it months ago, assuming it was misplaced in a move. The listing stared back at me, vintage Martin, $300, sold 2 weeks before the lake trip. My gut twisted. I'd last seen it at Mom's in the garage when Jane was helping me store stuff. I called the shop, my voice steady but thin. The clerk confirmed it. A girl named Jane brought it in. Said it was hers. I thanked him, hung up, and sat there, the mug burning my palms. She pawned it, my one piece of Grandpa. The man who taught me chords on that fretboard right before they'd sailed off on my dime. Mom must have known, she dodged my questions about it back then. The loss hit harder than the boat charge somehow. That guitar wasn't just an instrument, it was a memory, a connection, the only inheritance that mattered to me. I'd spent hours learning chords from Grandpa's patient instruction, his weathered hands guiding mine across the strings. After he died, that guitar was my link to him, to the one person who'd seen me as something more than a resource to be tapped. And Jane had pawned it without a second thought, probably to fund some part of their vacation, the vacation I paid for but wasn't invited to. The violation felt total, personal in a way that even the credit card theft didn't match. My phone lit up again, Mom this time. I let it go to voicemail, then played it. Her voice trembled. The police are here asking about Jane's texts. How could you do this to us? She's a wreck. No sorry, no shame, just blame. Then Jane texted, "You're ruining me, bro. I could lose everything." I didn't reply. Minutes later, "Dad, call it off. You're killing your mother." I tossed the phone aside, their words bouncing off me like rain on glass. They weren't pleading for forgiveness, they were begging for control, and I wasn't giving it back. That afternoon, I drove to the bank, filed an affidavit for the boat charge, and froze my accounts. The teller, a woman with kind eyes, asked if I was okay. Getting there, I said, and meant it. Back home, I dug through old texts and found one from Jane, "Pre-trip need cash. Can I borrow something?" I'd said no, but she'd taken anyway, the guitar, the boat. It was an impulse, it was a pattern, and I'd been too blind to stop it. My phone kept buzzing Mom's sobbing voicemails, Jane's all-caps rants, but I muted them. Then a week later, a deposit hit my account, $1,500. No note, just Mom and Dad's joint savings, guilt money, not an apology. I didn't touch it, I let it sit there, a cold monument to their panic. The fallout wasn't quiet. A cousin texted me later, "Cops showed up at 8 a.m. Jane tried to bolt out the back." Idiot. I almost smiled, picturing it, her scrambling, Mom wringing her hands, Dad red-faced and shouting. The cousin added, "They're saying you're overreacting, but Lisa told everyone about the boat plan. People are pissed at her now." At Lisa's stand, she'd cracked their facade good. Jane's mask was off, and they couldn't paint me as the villain anymore. I felt the shift, subtle but real. They weren't sorry, just cornered. For years, I'd been their fallback, the one who bent so they wouldn't. I'd make damn sure they felt it. The days that followed took on a strange rhythm, a sort of limbo between my old life and whatever came next. I went back to work at the warehouse, stacking boxes and checking inventory. The routines were unchanged but felt different, empty, but not in the hollow way I'd felt before. More like a clean slate, waiting. My supervisor, Rick, noticed the change. "You seem lighter," he said during a break. "Whatever you did over the weekend, it worked." I just nodded. How could I explain that I'd cut off the arm that was draining me dry? That I'd finally seen the shape of my own worth without their shadows distorting it? At home, I started making lists, things I wanted but had never allowed myself. A weekend trip to the coast, guitar lessons, a savings account that wasn't perpetually drained for someone else's emergencies. Small freedoms, but mine. I found an online therapist, a woman with glasses and a direct manner who didn't blink when I told her about the lake house, the boat, the years of taking. "What you're describing is financial abuse," she said, the words landing like stones in still water, and emotional exploitation. No one had ever named it before. It felt both validating and painful, like lancing a wound. So what now? I asked her. Now you set boundaries, and you grieve. Grieve? The word seemed wrong at first, but as days passed, I understood. I was mourning the family I thought I had, the love I believed was there. It hurt, but it was cleaner than the slow bleed I'd been suffering for years. On a Thursday afternoon, I walked into a local pawn shop, not the one that had my grandfather's guitar, but one across town. The owner, a grizzled man with tattooed forearms, looked up from his inventory as I approached. Help you? Looking for an acoustic guitar, I said. Nothing fancy. He showed me a few options, and I settled on a weathered Yamaha. Nowhere near the quality of Grandpa's Martin, but solid, with a warm tone. As I paid, he asked if I played much. Used to, I said. Starting again. It felt like a declaration of something bigger than just a hobby resumed. 3 weeks later, I loaded the last box into my truck and left for a small town in Oregon 800 miles from their voices. My new place was a weathered rental with a sagging porch and a view of fir trees. Rent was half what I'd paid before, no echoes of guilt trips. I bought a cheap guitar from a thrift shop, its strings buzzing but alive, and played it under a sky stitched with stars. No calls came, not when winter hit, not when Dad's truck broke down. A neighbor's post clued me in. Aunt Lisa mailed me $200, my share of the lake house. You deserved better. I didn't cash it, I just tacked it to the wall, a quiet nod to the one who saw me. Jane dodged jail, but the family whispers turned cold. She lost their trust, not just mine. I walked my mutt, rusty, down gravel lanes now, cooked chili for one, and slept without my phone on the nightstand. The silence isn't heavy anymore, it's mine. They thought I'd cave, come crawling back to fix their messes, but I'm building something new, a life where I'm not a footnote. Here's what I've learned, carved from the wreckage: family isn't a debt you're born to pay, it's a bond you choose, earned through respect, not obligation. They saw me as a tool, a bottomless well, and I spent years pouring myself out to prove I mattered. But real love doesn't demand your marrow, it meets you halfway. I don't hate them, I just don't need their shadows to feel whole. That quiet, once a scar, is now my air. You don't have to cling to blood that cuts you, you can let go, heal, and find your own ground. I did.